Well, welcome to our virtual expert series focusing on women role models in agricultural leadership, education, and communications. Today we have Donna Graham. Donna?
Thank you very much, Teresa. I'm very privileged, feel very honored to be a part of this seminar series and present some strategies for success that I think have worked for me throughout my different careers. My task, as I was given, was to introduce myself, a little bit about my careers and my research or scholarly activities, and then talk about some strategies that hopefully will help you. One or more of these might work for you as your career progresses. So a little bit about my background. I'm a native Arkansan. I speak fluent Southern. I'm the oldest of 7 children. I grew up on a dairy farm, but I'm the first generation in my family to graduate from college. But I worked my way through college, and I think those experiences growing up, I learned what the value of hard work is all about, and I learned that you have to negotiate, get along with your brothers and sisters, and be cooperative, because I think you are a product of your experiences. My education, I attended the University of Arkansas and received a Bachelor of Science degree in home economics and a master's degree in adult education, and then proceeded to the University of Maryland some years later to complete my PhD in agricultural and extension education. When I first started to work, I worked for the Cooperative Extension Service as an extension home economist because I was graduating at a time when women entered into traditional career fields associated with women. I worked with foods and nutrition aides, teaching low-income families about nutrition. Then I later became a county 4-H agent, and I enjoyed that work with 4-H youth. But some life events changed my path, and I changed back to home economics work as an area specialist, working 6 counties in the northeastern part of the state, later in the state office in the central part of the state, and traveling from one county to the other as a state specialist. I did take a little bit of a role in my responsibilities later as state specialist when I moved into more of a leadership training in a position called Specialist of Extension Education. But somewhere along the line, campus was looking for someone to help create a Department of Agricultural and Extension Education, so I accepted a split appointment. So I came out of what in our state are non-tenure track positions and moved into the academic world and moved through the ranks as an assistant associate and full professor. But I've also served as department head, an interim associate dean, and an associate dean. So I've had quite an array of activities throughout my 42 years of work. My scholarship is about as contorted as the sign. It's been all over the place. I have had studies in the area of nutrition, like the impact or effectiveness of the chronic book format, with low-income children teaching nutrition, Strong Families, which was a program about parenting, money management, and nutrition. I've studied barriers of minority youth and then minority professionals in the field. I've worked through various programs to look at extension audiences or extension programs, like some of those examples given there. When I moved to campus, I moved more into a focus about students and moved to things like studying the advising style of advisors and what students, the congruency they found between those advising styles, academic engagement and retention, civility in the classroom. Right now I'm working on the plus-minus grading system study. And I have co-authored a textbook with Brenda Sievers called Education Through Cooperative Extension. So I've been around the world and back in regard to different levels of scholarship. What you could say, I guess, is I've had some pretty non-traditional route to get where I am today. I haven't followed a typical career path you see many people follow. I've worked in both tenure and non-tenure positions. I've not followed a focused line of research. I've had both faculty roles and administrative roles, and I've had to deal with what I consider pretty difficult family situations. Some of the choices I made on this this little road of life is that my husband was killed many years ago when my son was 2 years old. So I had to make choices about my future, my family, and some of those were not, as I look back on them, I wish I made other choices. But you do have to make choices as you work and you try to advance yourself through your professional career. So here's my disclaimer. These are all generalizations I have made from my own life experiences, from observations I've made, from a few books I've read, mainly from mistakes I've made, but mostly from lessons I've learned because, as I said, I've worked for 42 years. So let's dig in. This idea of this seminar series was to focus on women and perhaps women in the workplace. So I did a little bit of study about what's been researched in the last 20, 25 years about women. And you will find that there's sort of three major categories that have been proposed as to be structural, psychological, or social barriers for women. You read a lot about the so-called glass ceiling. So what do these mean? Very briefly, I have worked through periods of time where organizations have adjusted themselves to different organizational barriers or structural problems that they have that hinder or cause barriers for women to advance. A clear example of this deals with child rearing and the policies that you had, and many times in academic environment. Now we have sort of a tenure clock can stop for a period of time as you take time out to raise family. There are medical reasons and other things which were not in existence years ago. So some of those organizational structures, in fact many of them, have been improved as women have entered the workplace, and studies have been made as to what particular reasons women and men are not advancing at the same level. There are a lot of psychological explanations that have been given that started with basically that women do not have the skills or traits necessary to perform in certain jobs. Or maybe they didn't look the same in their job performance. So you saw a lot of seminars to pop up, like on how to dress for success. And in fact, in this visual, you'll see that the pantsuit came about in sort of the 70s because this was the way you defined yourself, is to look and dress more like men at that time. That, of course, has changed. You might needed to study how to speak more assertively or how to read a budget or create a budget. So a lot of those kind of things were just that you didn't have the skill set to advance in the job. Those things, I think, have changed as well. In fact, I think that if you read a lot of leadership studies now, you'll see that the traits and skills that are necessary for these team environments are leaning toward the skills that women have. And then there are social barriers. Social barriers are those behaviors, and it's a wide range of behaviors, basically categorized under discrimination, the models or the role that people are playing that made people uncomfortable, stereotyping, those types of behaviors. There's been a lot of change here. There's still room for improvement, but stereotyping and others give people inaccurate perceptions and different expectations, and the idea that men should be more dominant, women more passive. Those kind of things are slowly adjusting in our society, and indeed we're making change here. But these can be barriers for women because that you are probably working in a department or a college, which are one or few, and so we do socialize with gender by gender, and this may exclude you to some extent to some of the undercurrent of the culture within your department. But as I said, I see this changing tremendously. When I first started to work, I was one of 3 women in our professional association. Today, when I go, it's very balanced between men and women, and so I see that these barriers are coming down, and I think that's great for our progress. So my point is sort of summarizing all of these is that you have to play the cards you're dealt. You can't change the cards, you just have to learn how to play the hand. You can't change the fact you're a female. You can't change the fact now that you've chosen a career that's male-dominated, that you have a certain expectation for your job that may not be accurate according to your perception. Whatever those cards are, you need to learn strategies to play the cards. You need to learn how to progress through the system to be a professional colleague that will help make you successful. Now, as I thought about this presentation, you have to define success in terms because everybody defines it in a different way. And just unfortunately, this was a period of time when the Super Bowl was taking place. And I decided that why not use a male-dominated sport to make some parallel points about how you need to play your cards, how you need to play the game. Because, as I have said here, the successful Super Bowl win for your success in an academic environment is promotion and tenure. This is the game you want to get to, the Super Bowl win for you. It doesn't totally define your success, but in terms of your career and your career advancement, this is a goal that we all work toward, we all try to achieve. Now, many institutions have post-tenure review, but I think these strategies apply the same, even though my points are made for those trying to succeed in this first step of promotion and tenure. So let's talk about some of these strategies. Number one, you got to make it to the playoffs. Teams that get to the playoffs are seasoned veterans of playing the game. They've learned very well the key elements of success, and I think we can use some of those for a comparison to talk about. We have to start to have our goal to be a winning season every year. That Super Bowl for you is at that 6-year period, but you have to win each season. You have to have excellent performance. You have to be able to say some of the key elements that I need to do are, and fill in the blank. What is it I need to do to have a winning season? You have to understand the game plan. Every football game has a perfectly crafted strategy of how they're going to play the game. And it's a process, much like EMT is a process. This game plan is based upon the strengths and weaknesses of your players. So you need to fully understand what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what do you need to do to improve. The game is based upon key players, and each one has a team mentality of the contribution they will make to the team. And yes, you do have to play together as a team for you to have success to make it to the playoffs. Number two, you have to play one game at a time. This may be one semester at a time for you, or you may consider 1 year at a time. But what is it that you have to do to win one game at a time? Well, teams have playbooks. Playbooks are those particular routes and calls that they will make throughout the game. And each person that knows those plays runs the particular routes, blocks who they need to block, defends who they need to defend. So what plays do you need to know to get yourself promoted? What's expected of you, in other words, in teaching, research, and service? Do you need to have a clear job description? You need to know those expectations. You need to spend some time, especially new employees, looking for the support that you're going to have, the financial support, the research support, all of those types of things that should be considered in your own playbook. Where are the grant sources you may look to? Talk to a lot of people and learn some strategies you're going to have. I noticed when I was the associate dean, this is the one thing new faculty did not have a clear expectation about. And I sadly saw, in one particular instance, a very productive person, highly regarded by students, excellent in the classroom, and that probably advised every student in the department, and I know advised all the clubs. And guess what? She did not receive a promotion because that was not the expectation of the route she should run to play this game. Because her peers in the department said, you didn't have enough research. Unfortunately, there's a lot of sadness to this story, and there's a lot of people, perhaps you could say, to blame, but the ultimate responsibility is for you to know the plays, how to play by the playbook. You have to be prepared in order to do this. And you can't depend on hearsay, you can't depend on other people. You start with reading the faculty handbook, knowing for yourself. Don't just listen to what other people tell you that need to go on. And I can say that I made a critical mistake when I first came here in that split appointment, an extension appointment and a teaching appointment. I luckily, maybe, played around with some scholarly activities, but it really wasn't enough. So I really had to turn on the juice before I went up for promotion because of bad advice that I was given. So read for yourself, understand for yourself. Unfortunately, I think a lot of junior faculty members are in sort of a high jump contest right now because I see the bar being raised year after year. So spend a lot of time understanding that on the front end. You have to practice, and this comes with semester after semester, year after year, putting in time, being an excellent teacher, a good researcher, and being a good citizen of service in your department and university. Focus your research as you get further into your career. This has definitely changed since I started working because this seems to be the definition of success in the scholarly activities is to be focused in one area. So spend some time building your scholarship, but remember that it takes balanced play calling to win games, and you have to have balance in your job in order to be successful. Number 3, prepare for the game day. This is the Super Bowl of all activities. This is the winning game you may make. You should know, there's a fixed timeline. And you start out there at year 6 and you work backwards. What I'm doing in year 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you need to make some quality measures to get to that winning game record. This game day, though, is when the university ultimately decides, are you going to keep you on? Are you a good investment? We're going to keep investing in you. So ask yourself some basic questions. What steps are you taking every day, every week, every month to help reach this goal? What actions have prevented you from achieving your goal? And then what new practices or behaviors even do you need to help accelerate your progress? This takes some real deep soul searching because we can probably all identify habits that we need to give up and things we need to change. But prepare yourself for that game day. Number 4, have clear communication. Just as with the team, when you have coaches that give instructions to the position players, you need to have the same type of coaching going on with you. You need to have peer support and mentors. These mentors are people that have gone through the process. They've been there. In other words, they can tell you some pitfalls to avoid as well as some ways to strengthen your progress. Again, it starts with a clear position description and the expectation of what you need to do within that appointment that you have. A lot of women faculty will select women mentors. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But they're few and far between. And so get a good balance of men and women and develop the credibility of working with the men mentors as well as women mentors. So I say get inside mentors inside the department and get some outside the department across campus and other areas. At this university, we have a reasonably good mentoring program across campus. Some units are stronger than others. So get a different perspective, someone else, and see what they may offer you for advice. Obviously, you need to get a very detailed annual review, and In this department, we do a peer review each year. I don't know that that happens everywhere, but by the third year, certainly, you need to have a very rigorous peer review, both within the department as well as those outside the department. You need to, most of all, seek feedback on your scholarship. Is this what's expected of me? I've seen some pitfalls where people think that 3 presentations is good as a journal article. So you need to get some serious guidance and have people that will be honest with you. So always establish very good communication. The 5th strategy deals with improving your position. If you want to be the main player, the starter on the team, you have to be the best in your position. So what does this mean? You need to be well-rounded as a scholar in all of the mission areas of the institution. What is it in teaching, in research, in service? One cannot weigh much more heavily than the other. Now, granted, you have different appointments, and we all have to consider that. That's why you have to have clear expectations. But the point is build value for you in your area of responsibility. You need to be seen as a valuable employee, making valuable contribution to the unit and to the university. And as you progress in your career, to regional and national contributions in your area of research. You also, again, I will say, need to look at the appropriate level of service. I have seen a lot of people that get asked many times to be, and especially women, to be on numerous committees, task forces, on and on and on, kind of functional kinds of work they need to do. And your 3-year review is loaded with service activities and very little in the other areas. So seek balance, try to be a well-rounded scholar. Now, I hear some complaints as an associate dean. I heard women complain that the men were just being mean to them and they were holding them back, et cetera, et cetera. Well, if you really investigated some of this and you looked at their dossier, their lack of contribution skills, following through with responsibilities, were all part of ways they did not improve in their position. So keep that in mind each day to work on improving yourself. Number 6, be a key player. You need to try to set the world on fire in your area of responsibility. You need to strive for excellence in teaching. Look for great student evaluations. Use those to give feedback, develop excellence in your courses. You need to get good results in your grant submissions, good reviews by grant reviewers. And you need to learn from those each time that you get that feedback. Again, you need to be well schooled in your discipline. That requires some discipline on your part in order to read, research, and write. The research agenda of late, and grants in particular, are more and more difficult as we have to work in collaborative areas. So just get involved. Get yourself known. Contribute. Be involved in contributions that others, you may start small, but keep adding to your resume in this area, and you will become a star. The thing that I think a lot of collaborators look for is you to be responsible. Are you going to carry your weight? Are you going to do the things you say you are? So all of these help you to become a better to grow in the area of your discipline. I think as you move along, you need to be involved in your professional associations. Sometimes you need to start by volunteering, be enrolled, take some leadership roles, because this too is considered when you move, as people see, are you moving through leadership roles within your department, within your professional association. So try to be a key player. Number 7 is that you have to be a team player. There are movements now to really study collegiality within units. And I have seen institutions that now have written policy about how collegial you are within your unit, and these are being considered within the promotion cycle. Now, to be successful, there are some strategies. I'll talk about the culture first. You will obviously figure out as you work within a department or a college that there are some unwritten type of things that operate that you can define as your culture. Somewhat unwritten structure of units of power, people that have more power than others. Who are the influentials within? A lot of informal rules. So you need to sort of learn, observe. I'm not saying you conform always, but I am saying you learn about this so that you can make good choices. But the whole idea of collegiality is all about being a team player and playing in concert and cooperation with one another within this culture, respecting one another's abilities and that what they can contribute to the goal and purpose of working toward the unit goals, departmental goals. So have excellent interpersonal skills. You're not going to just love everybody you work with, but you need to learn to appreciate their strengths and their weaknesses. Try not to be what I call a high maintenance worker. And there are people that I can name at this university. They're just high maintenance. You seem to always be having to contact them, see what's going on, why haven't you done this or that. But the idea that it's not just about cooperation. We have some people that just insist on having their way. They don't cooperate. They don't come to unit functions. I think that's below them to do certain jobs. Or they're even bullying their coworkers. So don't take on those characteristics. Brand yourself as an effective, reliable, productive employee in order to advance your career. Because believe it or not, these kind of hidden kinds of things play into you being successful. But relationships take a long time, and so you may have to work on the effort to be collegial to some individuals more than others. But there's really no excuse for not having good interpersonal skills. Number 8. I call this create a workout routine. Just as a player has to prepare, develop their own strengths to play the game, you have to develop your own strengths to advance, to have success, to move into arenas where you need to advance to help you in your career. So 3 areas that you really need to strengthen: your academic areas, that depth of knowledge that you need to have, and work toward being an integrated scholar in many areas. This probably means your routine each week is to set aside some time in which you need to read, or you need to work on your writing, or you need to read some research articles, help work on a grant. But it's a routine that you set aside every day. These are some of those things that get you when you think about what did I do today that hindered my progress. This is probably one of them, because, and I have a hard time doing this, but you need to work to have a very regimental routine each and every week or month in which you make progress towards your goals. So develop yourself a workout routine. Number 9, don't get sacked. You see this in football games and everybody oohs and ahs and thinks it's wonderful. But it's not going to be too wonderful if you get sacked at the promotion and tenure time. So develop yourself a plan. Try not to get hit from behind. Learn your plays and try to avoid getting sacked. So you know the timeline. As I said, work that timeline and work it backwards. What are you going to do each year in your plan of work? I'm sure everybody has to do this. Look at packets from others. Learn from others. How did others get involved in this collaborative effort? How did they work on this grant? And most of the time, people even share their promotion packet with you. So learn from that. as you progress through your career, you should focus on the quality that you're producing, not necessarily just quantity. And you should try to increase your depth and quality of work in your given area. You want recognition, not only by your peers, certainly by your department head, others within the college. You may want to apply for awards that may give you some recognition in that regard. Being involved in your professional association, there's opportunities there. But the idea is that you want to develop a reputation. It starts locally, it moves regionally, and grows nationally. And the longer you work, the larger this circle should be. So work on each one of these things to avoid being sacked. Number 10 is work from your mistakes. You might just call this your disappointment. Some will be mistakes. But this quote from Michael Jordan is, "I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." He learned from his mistakes. He learned how he could improve himself, maybe what he did wrong, or maybe how he could perfect another shot he was going to take. But the idea was Michael Jordan learned from this. You can't be paranoid about how you're going to explain away something that happened. It's not everybody else's fault. They're not out to get you. People don't have time to plot like this. So learn from this. Look for explanations as to why that grant wasn't accepted, or why that article wasn't accepted, or why you didn't get good evaluations that year. Look for explanations. Normally, you're to blame. And so you need to take that responsibility and work to improve it. You can't blame it all on everyone else. Throughout your career, you will probably have people that hurt your feelings, maybe even worse. But you need to learn to forgive, to move on, to pull yourself to a higher level of working and working with others around you. There are differences in people, and we just need to try to overlook some that may give us a little bit more heartburn than others. But the point I want to make is that, just like Michael Jordan, he was persistent. He had the courage to move on. He didn't give up. He didn't quit shooting. And that he learned from the things he was doing on how to be a better person. Okay, so there's 10 strategies, and there's many others I could give. The big day is here. What's the score? Are you going to, we have 11 people that vote in our college, so is it going to be 11-0 or is it going to be 5-6? What's going to happen when your packet, your promotion is there? What's going to prevent from having a split vote for promotion? Because split votes many times are just a vote for failure, a vote to say no. Again, I will say you want annual feedback. You need to have a clear articulation of expectations. You need to check on this every semester, every year. You need to work with mentors, maybe one or two people that guide you through the process, that give you very honest feedback, a support group of your peers that give you good feedback. And certainly at year 3, you have begun to build your packet that will ensure a good vote. You've got to balance your time, but most of all, you have to be productive. That will ensure that you have 11 vote. Now, what is it that's different about the things I've said for women than men? And there's just a very few, because all of these would apply to both genders. But here's the one that I see gets in the way the most: the balance of work and life. Women tend to think they're super moms. They become workaholics. They develop a high level of stress trying to meet all these expectations. So what quadrant makes you happy? Can you live with? Can you be balanced with between your job and your life? And if you don't learn to balance this, you will build up stress. It's going to impact your health, maybe your safety. you deal with personal care issues, and you certainly don't have any time for leisure. This is not healthy for you as an individual. You've got to have some downtime. You've got to have some balance here. How is this going? And I'm going to impact you and your family. I can't tell you how to do this. There's tons of books on how to do this. You have to find the strategy that works for you. But I did read a recent study that said even though this has changed to where men are taking on more housework, and they may even have higher standards for work, that women will not let go of the domestic duties, and they're still 3 times more involved in childcare. So think about this in your own life. Make some decisions that works a schedule that works for you, and maybe even learn to say no. The biggest issue, I think, is setting priorities. You can't do all these things and be happy, and you can't invest 100% in all of these things. So you have to have balance, and that means setting priorities. So you have to give up some things you like to do, and you have to do some things you don't like to do. So you got to think about that. I mentioned earlier about how I see a lot of women get sacked with, I wouldn't say that, getting asked to serve on a lot of service roles. That's fine for a while, but at some point you need to say, I have served my tour of duty. Now it's time for someone else to do this. So learn to say no and set yourself some priorities about where you're going, what you want to achieve. The best strategy of all is to live by a moral compass. You cannot go wrong when you have high integrity. People expect you to hold fast to ethical values. It's over and over again, because when you start lying to one, it leads to many others. You just can't do this. You have to live by the highest moral compass of all. And you have to work hard. There's no ways out of it. You have to show a lot of initiative. You have to be responsible. You have to be supportive of those around you and your team, and you have to be a team player. These 2 strategies, if nothing else, are the 2 best I could ever give you, because it's not a piece of cake, as they would say. So back to football, because you got to have some fun along the way. You got to enjoy yourself, get out, take a break. And it's easy. It really is an easy process if you will parcel it out into pieces and think about it day by day and month by month. But the closing comment is this quote: the elevator to success is out of order. You have to use the stairs one step at a time. And with that, I thank you, and I hope that one of these points will make a great strategy for you.
Donna, thank you very much. I love the analogy. It's almost a way to help remember these points, because, you know, as we move through the tenure and promotion process, like you said, all these things kind of jump out me as very important items. But the fact that you put them to the strategy of playing a game really kind of hones it in terms of helping to remember those. So thank you very much.
Thank you.